All right. So welcome. I am Kathy Book, and joining me in this conversation for the information session is Catherine Gates, our newly brought in executive director. We could not be happier to have her. And we appreciate you guys taking time out. You know, it's Tuesday night and everyone is busy. And so we're just very thankful that you're here. We are excited about what WIM is bringing in 2021, and we wanted to just take an opportunity to cast that vision with you, to share some of those insights with you, to share kind of where we've been. Catherine has an organization some of you have not heard of called Christian Women in the Workplace in Northwest Arkansas. So she's going to share about what that has been like and sort of our story around the two of us meeting each other and coming together, and just the way that God his hand is just all over it. And so we are thrilled with where we've been. We are so excited with where we're going. And so we just want to invite you on that journey with us and just take some time to kind of walk through what that looks like. And starting that is really just give you an idea of, we're all working women, right? And this was a Barna study that was done a few years back, but I love what this shows. So if you look at this, this grid here, so women are completely time starved. The commitments that are out there, so work and career about 31%, and then family and relationships about 44% of the time. And so if you look at what they want to spend time on, so this was the research, right? They want to spend time, personal development, church or religious activities, and friendships. But there's just no time, right? Your time is only split up within that daytime, and there's just no time for that. And so we felt like with this desire, there's such a desire, but it's an unmet need. How can we meet that need? How can we help women develop relationships, develop friendships, work on their faith, and really just create those connections? And that's what ultimately became Women in the Marketplace. And we are equipping working women to confidently pursue their faith and career for the glory of God. And we look at this into three separate buckets. And I want you to think about these as up, in, and out, right? So up, so we want to grow faith. Up is growing faith. So that's me and God. And we want to promote spiritual growth in working women. And then second, we want to create fellowship. So that's in, right? So that's me and you. The connection, so how we started this, and we were talking about people we haven't seen, having that time with each other. We want to build relationships. So it is about that community, about coming together and creating fellowship and having time with each other. But there has to be that third element, which is out. And so if you're in a small group today, or if you've ever participated in one, you want to have impact to the community. And so that's serving others through supporting faith-based businesses, mission work, personal development, helping other people when they are in a time of need. And so that's really important to us to be able to pull in all aspects of that as we look at not just about the faith. It can never just be about faith. It can never just be about gathering together as a group of ladies, hanging out together, right? There's got to be up, in, and out. And so we want you to be thinking about, like, how do we bring that to life in each of our groups and as we move forward? Some of the things that it looks like. So for anyone who hasn't participated in an actual study, we want to give you a glimpse of what the structure is. And so in a small group, lunchtime, breakfast, evening, you name it, opening discussion, there's scripture, and then there's just group discussion, time to connect and talk about the questions. Each week has a challenge that goes with it. There's a memory verse, and then we always close in prayer. And the idea of Unleashed, and the reason why it's in this structure, is because it's for time-starved women, right? We talked about, we want to grow our faith, we want to have community, we want to have friendships, but we have very little time for that. And most studies that are in the market today require hours of homework a night. Like you have to really give up so much more of your personal time in order to connect and to grow faith. But this book, and the way that it's designed, you have very little pre-work. Homework is literally that challenge, which takes about 15 minutes a week. Each one is an individual lesson in the format. And so you can be there a week, you can miss a week, you can come back the next week, and you really jump right back in. People can come in the middle. They don't even have to begin at the very beginning. They can jump in at any time in the study, and it's relevant. So it's so relevant to life that you can just jump in and you can join, you can participate at any time. And this just gives you a little visual of what a lesson would look like. And it's meant to show you that it's safe, it's easy, It's friendly. It's not like, oh, I don't know the Bible well enough, or I don't have a Bible in some cases, you know, and will I have to really dive into what the scripture is, right? So I think that it's really just about life and how do we integrate our faith into our work.
So just to give you a little background on how we got to where we are today. So background on myself, I was working with Work Matters, which is a nonprofit organization that's been around since October 2003, and they help people close the gap between their faith and their work. And I got a chance to work with, I also was helping people get into small groups, and I got a chance to meet with a lot of young women who were going through either our institute or maybe through a study. And we would just chat one-on-one. I would support them. Well, I was starting to hear from several young women that, just as Kathy was saying in that research, you know, that some of that, they were saying, you know what, I have ambitions for my career. I want to do my career well in a way that honors God. And I have a family, or I have other, you know, responsibilities or roles that in my life. I'd like to do both well. But at the church, I can only find things that are 10 o'clock on a Tuesday or Thursday morning, during the workday. And there are business women's groups, networking groups, but unfortunately, they don't have a faith element. There's no conversation about faith or how faith applies to our work. I'd love to find something that does both. And so after talking to a group of women, we got a leadership team together. And in March of 2017, we launched our first connection lunch. And people loved it. It was so successful that we said, all right, we need to keep this going. So in the beginning, we were doing monthly lunches. We would mix it up. We would do a study. We would do, at the beginning of the year, we talked about getting one word for the year. We would have panels. We would have individual speakers. And the topics ranged from things like confidence, emotional intelligence, developing a personal mission statement, things that these women were really interested in and wanted to grow in. And then as 2019, as we were progressing through 2019, we realized there's so many women who will come because they're invited by a friend and they say, how come I didn't know about this? There's so many other women that wanted to participate, but as a small leadership team that was all volunteer, it was really hard for us to get the word out, to put the time in. And so we were looking at how can we grow? And we thought to ourselves, well, we don't really need to create another nonprofit. There's so many out there. What if we piggybacked on an existing nonprofit? So at first we approached Work Matters. It seemed like a really good fit, and we were moving in that direction. But then, of course, COVID hit, and Work Matters had to reevaluate their priorities. And what they're doing is they're scaling their Work Matters Institute for Young Professionals, which is amazing. But then we were left with, okay, now what? Now what do we do? Meanwhile, Kathy and I met in October of 2018. A mutual friend introduced us because she knew that we both had a passion for serving women in the marketplace. And so, Kathy, you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah. So parallel pathing that, right? Still go back to that January 2017. We had a group of, I had left Kroger. So I had a 22-year corporate career at Kroger, left that job and was feeling like, okay, I don't get faith and work. Like I was a good Christian, but I was a good employee, but I was not a good Christian employee, I would say. And so we started having these conversations, and everyone was telling me, like, I feel the same way, and I feel lonely, and I feel isolated, and I don't really have people I trust or that I can talk to about how things are going. And so we started just we asked people to come to an information session very similar to this, and just said, what do you guys think? Should we try to do small groups and figure out, like, how do we do this whole faith and work thing? And so we did Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life. And it was a great study. Everyone loved it. At the end of it, they're like, that was really fun. That was good, but I still don't have any idea how to live out my faith in the workplace. And I quickly said, I don't either. That's why I quit my job, because I couldn't do it. So I don't know. But we prayed about it. We were asking all the right questions. We just didn't have the answers. Thankfully, God did. He said, I want you to write it. I want you to write the curriculum for these groups. And, you guys, my name is Book, but I was far from a writer. Like, hadn't written anything. I didn't like to read. I don't call myself intelligent in that aspect of things. I was always in the accounting and also a creative side, but not in the writing curriculum, especially. But God is faithful. If I can tell you anything tonight, like, trust him when he tells you something, because he brings all the resources you need. He brought 3 writers within a month to me, and they brought me curriculum outlines. They brought me, like, looking through the stuff and giving me feedback. Like, it was just amazing, the people that came around me to help it happen. And so I had hip surgery and in June of 2017, and wrote the first study guide that launched in July. So we launched, I think it was like 5 groups in July of 2017, and then said, okay, I think this is a thing. So let's become a nonprofit, because we couldn't really find anything like it. And then we opened an office in downtown Cincinnati, and that was more of a needing a place to work, needing a place to meet in the city that was central to a lot of people who work downtown. And so we continued that, and that was successful, and it was good. And we had multiple groups there, and we'd have them pop up around the city. And then we decided what expansion would look like. So we started talking about, how do we reach more people? And one of those paths was church expansion. And thank you, Michelle, for inviting the Lord of Life Lutheran Church, your group, because you guys were our pilot. Like, you were our pilot group of reaching out into a church and saying, hey, we know there isn't a lot of curriculum. There's not a lot to offer for working women. We'd love to just give you these studies and have you test it out. And so from there, we launched virtual with Lynn, who's on the call, being in Chicago. We were like, hey, we got to figure this virtual thing out. Little did we know, 1 year later, we were all going to figure this virtual thing out, right? Like, God prepares the way. He sets us up to be exactly where we need to be. And so we had this footprint. We've always had this idea of what national could look like. We took from that first study guide until this, like, last year, we wrote about 13 study guides, and all different work topics, just like Catherine said, confidence. We had conflict resolution and all these different ideas of how you would integrate faith into work. And we decided that if we were going to go national, we had to make this scalable. And so we took all of that work and combined it into one book. And it's in 3 sections. So it's really like 3 9-week, 9 to 10 session books that really walk you through, how do I live a fully integrated faith and work life, and launched that in April of this year. Have been talking about, hey, why don't we reach out to Work Matters? This sounds familiar, right? Let's reach out to Work Matters, see if we could be their women's ministry side. Maybe they could help us launch nationally. So fast forward, call Catherine Gates, and I'll let her finish off this story.
Yeah, so we talked in April, and I was all excited to tell Kathy, yes, we're planning this women's initiative. This would definitely be a possibility. I love partnering. We did do some research. We did our first webinar, and then again, that's when Work Matters said around July or August, we've got to cut this. And it's so interesting because the day we announced it to the leadership team to let them know what was going on, it was August 6th, and Kathy and I reconnected finally on August 7th. And that's when I let her know what was going on. And so she turned to me and said, well, that's not our only avenue. We were considering different options. So we're looking for an executive director. And I mean, I just had that burden on my heart to, like, I was going to lead that women's initiative, and, it wasn't leaving me, so we started talking, and I'll tell you what, it's not often that this happens, but the Work Matters leadership team has been so supportive and really seeing this as a calling for me. And so we will continue to partner and work with them. But yeah, I got to start doing what really I feel God's been preparing me for a number of years on January 4th. And loving it so far. Absolutely loving it.
It's good. All right, I'm going to pause this because we have personal testimonies here, but I think that's, why do that when we have people on the call who have personal testimonies of them? So what I'd like to do, if you guys don't mind, if a couple people would be so kind as to unmute and just share with us like one sentence, two sentence, what is being part of a Women in the Marketplace small group meant to you? Why do you think it's important for someone to consider it?
All right, I'll go. Even though I have been a very poor member of small group, I co-facilitate 9 executive roundtables, mostly men. And I can tell you, men relate to each other far differently than women. And the groups that we have that have a more of a balance of women and men, it just brings a dimension that God, I think, intended for us. And for me, I've been part of Michelle's group for a while and absolutely loved my time there. Had some personal issues with the family over the past year that kind of precluded me from being more involved. But, sorry. I'm sorry. I have a DoorDasher coming because I was working late. But, I just have to say, there is something about the connection that women have together. There's a shared experience. There's a shared history. There are things that, and I'm not poo-pooing men because I love the men that I work with. But if you don't have that balance of women in the marketplace, it really, I think it hurts us all. Yeah. We were just talking about this the other day at Work on Purpose, how we don't want to be so fragmented. We want women, we want people of color, we want people of different ages, we want people of different socioeconomic backgrounds, because we're supposed to be one. We're supposed to be the bride of Christ. We're supposed to be one body. But the whole women thing has, at least for me, been an area of imbalance. Okay. So I've made Michelle keep me on her distribution list, and I am really planning to reorder my life this year and get more involved again.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura.
Great.
How about one more person? Who's my other share? Who's one other sharer?
I'll
Brandy
share for
Hanger.
you.
I see Brandy. Go for it, girl.
Hi. I'm in the parking lot waiting for one of my children to come out of gymnastics, so hence the reason in the car. But for me, because I'm a working mother, I love, you hit on the point of not having the homework, because I've been in other Bible studies where I've had a lot of the homework and I fall behind and then I feel guilty. And so there was never that guilt for coming to the meeting. And if you did miss one, you just picked right back up. So I love that piece of the structure. But for me as a leader, it helps me refocus. At one time, I always, did the middle of the week. And so it was like that middle of the week refocus. Now I've been in the Friday, and it's a nice way to end the week because I start the day with that. And in some ways, it's an outlet. So when we share our frustrations or we share the truth, just hearing like you're not alone and refocusing on who's truly in control. I think, this past year with the amount of change that my place of employment had and some of the things that I had to address as a leader with, giving somebody their future of, are you staying with the company? Are you not? And the weight of that, I can specifically still remember that day and you guys praying with me and helping prepare me for those conversations and how God showed up throughout the whole day. And I truly believe it was because of that team of women on the call, yourself included, helping just prepare my heart and my mindset for the day. And so that's what that's about WIN.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandy. That's great. All right.
So one of the things we wanted to definitely share with all of you is, all right, so why does it matter to you that we are becoming national, that we are national, and that we continue to grow? You know, one of the reasons is that as we grow nationally, first of all, obviously we want to have an impact on a lot more women. And as we do, it provides you with an opportunity to connect with a wider variety of women. And so you may be looking for women that are in your stage of life, in your industry, or who have a certain level of experience that either you want to pour into or that you would like to pour into you. You know, there's a lot more resources as we grow nationally to reach out to a lot of other women, a lot more diversity, and a lot more varied experience. So some of the ways that we're helping you connect with other women is through our prayer sessions on Monday and Friday, which are taking place at 3 p.m. Eastern. And so that's something you can pop into anytime. There is Wednesday night yoga that we are doing virtually. So you can join that anytime as well. I have not yet. I still need to do that. And so there will be more things that we'll be offering. Then, of course, there's the relevant practical faith and work studies. One of the things that I want to highlight about that study is it is very relevant to your work. So it really is teaching you, helping you to learn how to live out your faith at work and getting the support that you need on a day-to-day basis. And then, of course, we'll be planning, and we already have planned, regional and national events where we can gather and hear from speakers that are talking about topics that are meaningful to you or sharing their experiences that hopefully are meaningful. The other thing that we have the opportunity to do is expand our partnerships with other faith and work organizations, or maybe even different types of organizations, but certainly in the beginning, faith and work, that offer complementary resources and services. We can't be all things to all people, and we want to make sure that we're serving everyone with excellence in terms of what God has prepared us to do, right? And so as we expand our partnerships, we may be able to do things like help you plug into a mentoring program. We might be able to make it a little easier to offer something like a podcast. And so we are looking at enhanced resources as we move forward. And that's something we really want to hear from you. It shouldn't be coming from us, right? We feel like doing this, that, or the other thing. We want to hear what's going to be most meaningful to you. What are you looking for? What kind of resources will really help you in your daily walk with Christ at work? We do have a Connect event planned for March 18th, so we hope you'll join us. It's from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. It will be online. It'll be on Zoom. And at this particular one, we have 2 women who will be sharing their experiences of how they've unleashed their faith into their work and how God has shown up, so that you can find encouragement to hopefully learn from them and do the same. So Taryn is a diversity and inclusion manager for 8451, so more of a corporate job. And Peggy Muriner is founder and executive coach for Pair Up Systems, so she'll be sharing from an entrepreneurial perspective. And that's something else that we really want to do, is make sure that we are addressing like a wide range and variety of types of people. I know one of the things that I had seen at Work Matters was, there were entrepreneurs who felt like we were really speaking to more of the corporate person, but not the entrepreneur. And so we want to make sure that we're being as inclusive as possible. So we want to help entrepreneurs as well as people in the corporate world, different levels of their career, different stages of their career. And so hopefully you'll find what you need in that diversity. And the ways that you can engage with us starting today, you can subscribe on womeninmarketplace.net. If you haven't already, you can subscribe and get our weekly email newsletter that lets you know what's coming, what we're doing that week. You can certainly join or start a small group. You can follow us on social media. And as I mentioned, the weekly prayer and praise happens every Monday and Friday. In fact, this Monday, we really focused on praying for our country, as well as the individual prayers. So I think that's, it's just, I know there were people who've expressed just their own tension that they were experiencing. It was a great opportunity to just have some open conversation. So it's a safe place to have those types of conversations. And eventually we'll be looking for volunteers and people to lead or facilitate. And that's something that if that's of interest to you, we'd love to hear from you, and can certainly keep you up to date with those opportunities as well. So now we'd love to hear from you. We wanted to just give you sort of the high level, but we'd love to hear your questions and what it is you'd like to know more about, what you're curious about, or if you have any comments. Just remember to unmute yourself.